Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind The Country Chic Cottage. Today I'm going to teach you how to make sublimation clocks. And yes, I have 3 different versions of this because there are a ton of sublimation clocks on the market. So this is a traditional wall clock. I have an alarm clock here. We're going to sublimate the sides. And then I have one that can be freestanding or it could actually hang on the wall as well. Now this one is like an MDF board. These are metal panels that you put on a plastic clock, and then this clock is glass. So there are tons of different options for clocks when you're talking about sublimation. And yes, you can personalize these. So for this version, I used sort of a sunset. However, you could use photos on this similar to the way I did on this alarm clock. So tons of ways to personalize and make this project your own. Now, if you were looking for the file that I used for this super cool sunset, then that will be linked below this video. And yes, I do have it for free. So grab that file if you want to use it to make sublimation clocks or any other sublimation project. So we're going to start out by taking a look at the supplies we're going to use. The supplies you'll need are as follows. You'll need heat-resistant tape, heat-resistant gloves, a lint roller, a heat-resistant mat, and a heat source. I'm going to use my Cricut Easy Press, protective paper, and then your sublimation blank. Let's take a closer look at the wide variety of sublimation clocks that you can get. The standard is a round clock and you sublimate it like this, and then we will assemble the clock workings and the hands after sublimation. And this is fairly standard when you're thinking about sublimation clocks. However, you can get alarm clocks that come with sublimatable sides, and we'll sublimate these sides, stick them on later. There are square clocks. This square clock is one you could hang on the wall. It even comes with a hole to add a stand and you can stand it up. This is a glass version where this is MDF, where these panels are metal. So there's a wide variety of clocks and you'll just have to pick and choose. You can choose from the ones that I'm using, or you can choose other versions on places like Amazon. Next, you'll want to create your sublimation print. We are going to measure the clock first. I always measure the clock regardless if the measurements are on the listing or not, just to make sure I got what I was supposed to get. Write those measurements down, and then I'm going to head to Canva to make my sublimation prints. Now you can design these in whatever software you would like, but I like Canva because it's easy to get the clock face and personalize it. So let's head to Canva and see how to make these. I'm using Canva to do my designs. Click Create a Design, then Custom Size. And I'm going to use 8.5 by 11 inches because that is the size of my paper. Next, you'll want to go to Elements, and the first one we're going to do is the round clock. So the clock is right at 8 inches, maybe a little under 8 inches. So we're going to type the word circle, and then you're going to pick frames, and this makes a frame for your photo. Now you can choose from other ones that have a border, but I'm going to go with a full picture. Then you can click Position, and you're going to make this 8 by 8. Then again, I'm going to click Elements and I'm going to search for clock face. We're going to go with graphics this time, and you can choose a clock face that you like here. So I'm going to choose one that works for my clock design, and you can change this later if you want to. So we're going to click that. You can also change the color of these numbers to any other color that you would like, and it probably depends on the color of your photo what color numbers are going to look good. So I'm going to upload my photo and drag it over to the circle. Then you can double click that circle and you can resize the photo, move it around, get it how you like it on the circle itself. And you do need to remember that the clock arms themselves are going to come out of the middle of this circle. So approximately the middle, you will have something sticking out. So you might want to avoid things like people's eyes or mouth or something like that in that area. When you get it how you like it, you'll click Done. Then we're going to click the numbers themselves, and you can make these as big or as small as you would like. And you want to be sure to center them over the circle. And at this point, you can play with the colors. So what colors look best with the image? So a lighter image might look best with darker numbers. A darker image will look best with lighter numbers. If you're struggling here, you can click Edit, and there are several different filters and effects you could put on these numbers. So for instance, I could go with shadows, an outline, and you can see that I could get an outline outline around my numbers and it makes them pop off a little bit more. So you can definitely play around with different effects and the numbers to make them pop off of your surface. So I'm going to do about a 5 outline in black, and that really makes the numbers pop off of the surface. Now the numbers themselves also come with a hole for the center, so we can see where the center is going to be in relation to the picture. I'm going to add a page and show you how this works with the other types of clocks that I'm going to be sublimating. So this time I'm going to add a square that's a frame. I'm going to click position, make sure the ratio is locked, and again I'm going to do 8 inches. Move this over to the center. Again, drag and drop the image. Double click that image, and I can resize it to however I would like it. Move it around. And I do want to use the same clock face again, so I'm just going to go up here, duplicate it, and then drag that clock face to the second page. Now if you were to drag it over the box, it's going to try to replace your picture. So instead of doing that, hold it over to the side. And then I use the arrow buttons on my computer to then move it around. You could also use position and do the center and the middle in this case, and then make sure that the photo is in the center and the middle. So those are both options for moving that around. And then of course I can see my circle in the middle. It looks perfect. And in this case, there will also be a circle where you have the piece to make a stand, and you do want to make sure that that area is clear as well on either side. Then I'm going to add a page for the third clock version. Once I'm going to add squares. I'm going to make these 2.75, and there are 3 for this clock, so I'll duplicate those. And this time we don't need any numbers on this clock because they just go around the outside, and you can drag and drop the pictures into each square. Now for this version I'm using photos, and you can use photos for these other versions as well. I just wanted to show you a variety of ways to make sublimation clocks. So once you have this exactly the way you would like it, we're going to call it sub clocks, and then I'm going to click share, download, and you want to download this as a PDF for print. And I like to use CMYK and click download. You can then pull this up and print it on your sublimation printer. You want to make sure you use sublimation ink on sublimation paper. So now I printed those out. I wanted to show you a few things about the prints. So for these two, I mirrored the design. That is because we're going to be flipping them upside down and sublimating on the surface. So you need to mirror the print before you print it so that your numbers are correct facing once you flip this over and sublimate onto the surface. So that is for the round clock, as well as these squares that go on the little alarm clock. Now for the glass clock, it is a bit different. What is going to happen is we are going to sublimate on the back, and the print is going to show through to the front. So you do not mirror the design, because we're going to place it right on top, something like this, and that print is going to show through the front. So you want your numbers to be correctly facing, so you do not want to mirror the print in this case. Now, you can see through the glass here slightly, so you might want to hold it up and make sure that you got the print correct. Or in the case of this, hold it up and see if you think that it will look right once you place it on there. But the good rule of thumb is if you have to flip the print in order to put it on a surface, you need to mirror it. If you don't need to flip the print and instead set the surface on top, then you would not need to mirror it. The preparation for each of these blanks is going to be roughly the same. So you're going to let roll the surface where you're going to add the sublimation print, remove any debris, then you're going to add the sublimation print to the sublimation blank. Now each of these blanks are made for sublimation. That means they already have some type of poly coating on them, but what you also want to do is to make sure they don't have any type of protective coating. Like I don't think this version does. However, this version does have a protective coating over each of the squares. So you want to make sure that there's no type of protective film before you start the process. If there isn't a protective film, again, clean the surface with that lint roller and then locate your blank on the sublimation print. Now you do need sublimation ink, sublimation paper, as well as a sublimation coating on the blank to make this entire process work. And once you have everything where it's located, then we'll just use some heat resistant tape in order to hold it in place during the sublimation process. Now the process for prepping these blanks is the same for all of them, so I'm going to prep them all in the same manner, and then we will get out the Easy Press and start sublimating. So for each of these, I'm going to use a heat resistant mat, put protective paper on it, then add my clock pieces, and I want it to be print side up, and then put protective paper over the top. And then I'm going to press. Now all of these are 360 degrees, but they are different times. So I'm doing these first because they're only 60 seconds. So we're going to press those for about 60 seconds. Once time's up, we'll just lift that up. And I always just kind of like to peek and see if it looks like they sublimated correctly. And it does look like they look good. So then you can just peel this back and you see the result of your sublimation. And these look so cute. And now we'll just set them aside, allow them to cool, and then we can add them to the clock itself. Now the process for the other blanks is similar. However, the round clock is 360 degrees for 70 seconds and the glass clock is 360 degrees for 140 seconds. So I'm going to go ahead and press those in the same manner, and then we'll take a look at assembly. So you saw me sublimate these. I sublimated the other ones off camera using the exact same process. So the round one turned out fabulous with the instructions that I was given. The glass one, I did have to alter it a little bit because I used the Easy Press. So this is square, and the Easy Press of course has rounded corners, and it just did not sublimate well in the corners using 360 degrees for 140 seconds. So I did that first, and then I went back on each of the corners and sublimated for an additional 70 seconds on each corner. Now the good thing about glass blanks is you can see through the front and see that it's sublimated well, so you can easily repress it if it didn't. You don't even have to lift it up and peek at it, you just look through the front. Does it look good? No. Then just press some more. So all of these are ready now, and I'm allowing them to cool, and then we can assemble them. For the glass clock, 3 of the sides have this adhesive on it. So you just peel the adhesive off, and then you will just add that sublimation panel to it. Now, this is the bottom of the clock, so I'm going to make sure I orient these correctly and just drop them in the holes and press down well. And then I'll just repeat that on 3 sides with my 3 panels. Then here is that version complete. You just add batteries, turn your clock on, and you have a cute alarm clock or clock for your desk. For the round and the square one, you are going to want to assemble your hands so you can push through the clock assembly from the back. And then we can assemble the hands on the front. So we can start with the nut to hold the assembly tight. And you can use like pliers or something like that. You do want to make sure that for this one, we're going to hang it on the wall. This needs to be pointed towards the 12 before you tighten down your nut. Then you want to press each of your hands to this assembly. And then for these, you want to look for the one with the larger hole, and that goes first. So in this case, we have the hour hand, and you're literally just pressing it onto the plastic piece that's here. And then we'll go to the next hand, press it on, and then finally your second hand just presses onto the top. And then you can add batteries and set the time on your clock. Then I repeated the same process for the square clock. Additionally, it has this hole in the corner. So it just has a 2-piece stand, and you put the stand through from the back and screw on this front piece. And this is for if you want this to stand up instead of hang on a wall. So you just tighten that up. All right, so now you see that this one has the little stand, and now it can stand up. Now, which one of these do I like best? I will say that I feel like this round MDF board clock that is a more traditional clock is the higher quality version. This little alarm clock, while it's super cute, it just doesn't feel very sturdy. And so I'm very skeptical about how long this will last. However, it does look very, very cool. Now, the glass clock, while it's a very high quality, it feels amazing. The stand is what gets me. I don't really like the stand itself. I don't like the look of it. And also, I don't feel like it's very sturdy. If someone hits this on this side, it is just going to fall over. So I am very cautious about the stand and using it anywhere where someone might grab it. So you might think of a different way to help this clock stand up, maybe like a plate holder or something like that, and then that might be a good option for you. However, the way it stands out of the box, I'm just not crazy about it. So for me, it is definitely the more traditional round wall clock for my sublimation clock needs. However, you can pick and choose from any of these or try some other versions on Amazon because like I said, there are so many different versions that you can try. Now, all that's left for you to do is to pick your sublimation clock, pick whatever image you're going to put on it, use the tutorial that I just showed you to customize it, and make a gorgeous home decor clock for your house. So now if you have any questions about anything we covered about making sublimation clocks, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you liked this video and it helped you, give us a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.